All right, guys, what's up? Episode 3 of Mac and Smitty. We're going down to Tallahassee in Tallahassee, Florida there. FSU, one of our absolute favorite guys. You're going to keep hearing me say that. I know you're probably going to be sick of it by the time this is over, but it's really true. Josh Storms, Coach Storms down there in Tallahassee, one of the best, Ike, at what he does.
Yes, sir. I had the privilege of meeting this guy last year at Sorneck Summer Strong 17, and just shared a couple words. Our love of deadlift, of course. And I don't know what the weather's like down there in Columbia, but it's been raining like crazy here in Raleigh. Last week we had Coach Thunder. This week we've got Coach Storm. So
I think it's our fault. I think the weather is our fault because of what we're doing here. We need to switch that up. We need to switch it up, and we're going to. But this episode was too much fun, man. It was a longer one. We could have made it even longer, but it was a ton of fun. And Ike, as you said, to watch this guy deadlift is a thing of beauty. We need to get down there to 100%. Tallahassee, get some stuff in there, get a workout in with him, and we'll make that happen. But this was a ton of fun. Here we go with Coach Storms. Coach Storms, what's up, brother? Great to see you. It's summertime. We're getting active. We're getting after it. You were just at Summer Strong. You were just on vacation. And now I have to imagine you guys are full speed ahead. How's summer going? How you doing?
Oh, it's good, man. First of all, thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate you guys taking the time. But no, it's going good. We started full go this week. Got all the guys back in town, off and rolling. Just getting ready to wrap up week 1 tomorrow already. It goes fast.
That's awesome, Coach. With this first week being back in the summertime, what did you guys? What was the main thing on your agenda as far as what you wanted to accomplish and establish with this first week back?
Yeah, anytime we get the guys back, for us, it's kind of the way the academic calendar works. These guys are come out their longest break off campus during the year. So, those guys, obviously, you got take-home programs. We'll check in with guys while they're back home, seeing how their training's going, just seeing how life's going and those things. And then coming back, it's kind of figuring out, where are we at, where are we starting at? Are we in a good spot? How do we utilize that month of May and jumping back in? So this early few weeks is laying that foundational stuff. And our guys understand when we come back. I mean, you got 9 weeks till camp, so we're gonna move at an accelerated pace. We're gonna jump into it pretty hot and heavy. So came back Monday being our first day on Memorial Day. That was a voluntary day for the guys. Everybody was in town because we had a team meeting that night. So off and rolling. Some good linear speed work that day. That's more of our speed and power day in the weight room. So primary power clean being our main lift that day. Working through all of our auxiliary stuff. We come out on Tuesday. We'll go skills and drills together as a team, getting that football work in. And then the guys, when skills and drills is done, they'll run their 7-on-7, their player-led stuff. And then we come back on the field after that, and then we'll condition as a team after that day. So that kind of gives us our best chance, to be able to, one of the few opportunities we get to, mimic time on feet, like a practice, mimic overall workload, like a full practice. So that's Tuesdays. Guys will come back Tuesday afternoon. We have, kind of our short blitz workout program that Coach Dowdy runs. That's our time to spend a little more work on, some of the injury prevention stuff, some of the more rehabby type things for the guys, kind of our more hands-on, individualized kind of period of work. Mm-hmm. Come in on Wednesday. It's only lift Wednesday. There's no field work, primarily upper body day, big body armor day in the weight room. Get a big pump, move some weight that day. Come back Thursday, looks a lot like Tuesday. And then tomorrow when we come in, tomorrow's our primary big squat day. Come in, smash that squat, big heavy lower body emphasis. And then we'll finish off. Our skill guys will be out in Doak running stadium steps, and our big guys will be over on the practice field, kind of doing some big guy GPP work, a lot of push, pull, carry, drag, all those things.
All the fun things, all the PTSD is sprinting to my brain.
I see you sweating. As I started talking about it, I saw beads of sweat.
Yeah, what's happening? I got the AC on. I don't know what's happening here. It's excitement and terror all at the same kind of time. But it's one of my favorite times, right? Like summer, and things have changed. And listen, we're going to be all over the place today, kind of talking about different things with you, and appreciate that kind of preview there of what you guys are doing. But summer truly is one of the most impactful times where you build your football team, because as you kind of mentioned, we have this, 2.5 months of time where when I was playing, it was just me and you, right? That's all it is. Coaches kind of get in there now and, do a little different things with the rules, but this time is so instrumental. What's kind of your biggest goal, I guess, when summer hits and the first session hits? when you get done and you let them go and they have to go back to football full time, what are you trying to accomplish in that span of time?
I mean, obviously, like the low hanging fruit is you got to get those guys camp ready. You know, what I mean, you can say you're trying to get ready for the game in the summertime, but really, truly, you get ready for camp. Camp will put the finishing touches on to be game day ready. But like that's the doesn't need to be talked about part of the job. That is the job, right? The biggest separation in the summertime is building that team together, building that bond together, putting our leaders in position to lead, and building that. Because with college and more, the portal, your roster changes over fast, and you bring in guys from the portal that get here in January that you're expecting to be major pieces of your program. Expect veteran guys that are going to be leaders. But really, when you come into the winter program, you go through spring ball. At that point, those guys, they're still just trying to get their head above water, trying to figure out the flow of the program, the standard, all those things. So leading's tough early on. This time of year, those guys have kind of established themselves of who they were through spring, how they're viewed by their teammates. Now it's time for those guys to take that next step forward and actually become those vocal leaders, become those guys that are the not just the standard setters, but the guys that are holding other guys to that standard. And those are some of the biggest things we have to build during the summertime is that cohesiveness as a group, and then putting those leaders out front to lead. Bigger, faster, stronger, better shape, all that kind of stuff. Like that's a byproduct of trying to accomplish the other things.
Do you find that, since mentioning the transfer portal and having those veteran guys come in from the transfer portal, and the cohesiveness with those leaders who have already been at Florida State for a few years, do you see them kind of battling it out for leadership, or is it kind of like already established who's going to kind of step up, or, that's what the summer is for, kind of see who is going to take the initiative and step up into that leadership role?
Yeah, I think when those guys come in January, you get a guy who maybe played 3-4 years in another school and he was a leader there. And you see those natural leadership qualities of that guy early on. But, you guys know, like you come to a place and you're new, it's tough. It's tough for me to lead you if I really don't know your name even maybe yet. You know what I mean? So like a lot of those guys, where you see your true leaders, what they do a great job of is coming in and they establish themselves as a worker. They establish themselves as a standard holder, right? So there's no holes in their game, so to speak. And while they're doing that, though, they're taking the time to get to know their teammates. They're taking the time to build relationship with their teammates. And if they've done that in the wintertime, those are the guys you identify. Okay, in the summertime, this dude's going to be able to step up and be one of those guys for us that can not just lead himself, but his position group or his side of the ball, or maybe even the whole team. And so the guys do a great job of that. The guys come and lay that groundwork in January, February, March, April. And then when they come back, into May, into June, now those guys can step forward and their voice is heard, their voice is respected. They can get that response and move that needle with the team.
I love that, man. And I want to double down there. I'm going to let Ike kind of back everything up here in a second and kind of talk about your journey and how you got into this. But I do want to double down on the portal because it's such a fascinating thing. And you and I have had these conversations over the years. But when I think of guys like Braden Fisk, who just War Daddy. I think of Jared Verse and, Johnny Wilson and all these guys that just come in and Tommy Castellanos this year, who's coming in. Guys that, as you mentioned, are relatively finished products, but they're coming to Florida State for whatever reason, for a cherry on top, for continued development, for another chance to play for that brand. I mean, I'm wearing it right here on my chest. You are too. It means something, right? I mean, it's a big deal. How do you handle it, though, in the weight room where you're used to getting historically babies that come in that don't know what they're doing and you walk them through and you have your process? Well, now that is sped up 4 or 5 years, 3 years in some instances. What's your process in evaluating, developing, and just cutting loose, these transfer guys?
Yeah, I think I'm sure everybody's got their own philosophy on that, but when I look at it, you get a Jermaine Johnson, a Keon Coleman, those guys coming in that are truly one season guys, and you know what their college football resume is coming in. You know what those guys can give your team on Saturdays. And so it's helping them try to understand the standard quickly. But when you came into Clemson as a freshman, this is the Clemson way. This is the way we're going to do it. You're doing the things that we do, and there's one road, one path. We've had good success with those veteran guys coming in. It's like, we got to skip some of those steps a little bit. And I tell those guys, and it's a big adjustment for a lot of them, like, your success here was going to come down to what our relationship could be. If you and I can communicate openly, what are you good at? What do you suck at? What have you done? What haven't you done? What do you need? All those things. It allows me to do a better job of meeting those guys where they're at. Like whatever, I could have a guy come in and, this is just weight room stuff, but hey, I never power cleaned in our program. Okay, well, I got this guy for a really limited amount of time, right? So am I gonna try to invest all this time teaching this guy to be a really good power cleaner when he's only got a couple months to get ready for his final year of college football where he's trying to accomplish something huge? Or can I use a different tool to accomplish the same job, And some guys, like, I've never cleaned before. Let's give it a try. Dude's money. It's like, I think you're gonna be just fine. Some guys, though, it's like, okay, this is a project. This is a project we're actually not even gonna pursue. You're a guy, we can use some different means to get those same training qualities out of you to help accelerate your process because you got a limited time to top off your development. You got a limited time time to address those few things you're still trying to address physically and athletically, in your game. And we got to get to those ASAP. And so we got to be able to communicate. Have to be able to go back and forth. Those guys got to understand the role that they need to play for us, as far as you were brought here because you're a dude. I need you to be a dude here. That starts with you leading you and you holding the standard. And then those other guys will see that, and those guys will follow. Nobody wants to hear, well, when I was here, I did this. When I was there, I did that. When I was, what it is, locker room, that's not going to fly. They don't care. You're here now. You're wearing this logo. If that was so great, you'd still be there.
Correct.
What are you going to do here? Who are you going to be here? And once those guys can understand that, grasp that, take off with it, those guys have had really, really good success in our program. And I think because we do handle those guys a little bit differently. The standard's still the standard, but I mean, it's training. I'd like to think we're good enough at our jobs. We can find a lot of different ways to get to the same ends, right? And if this tool doesn't work for you, then I got to find a different tool in the toolbox to help get you better.
Yeah, and see, that's I actually wanted to follow up on that, because it was that like a transfer portal era thing, or have you always kind of had that mindset of, okay, I could never rest a clean on my shoulders, but I did it for 5 years, and there's probably something else I could have done differently to get something better or stronger at. Have you always been that way, or was that a recent kind of development of, I'm going to find the best thing for this guy?
I think that's always been a part of how we operate and how I've operated, because not every body's built the same. Not every tool is going to work the same for everybody. It's like if you're in a program and like, hey, we squat with a west side wide stance and a low bar position. This is the way we squat. Well, if your hip girdle's not built like that and your shoulder mobility is not like that, you're never going to be a very good squatter. And then what are you going to do? You're going to hate squatting. And now every day when you come in, I got to try to find a way to drag that out of you. Well, you know what? All of a sudden, maybe if I move your feet a little bit and move your bar position a little bit, you're a really good squatter. Okay, now you're moving naturally for how your body is. Good. Now you don't hate this as much. You're going to pour more into it. We have more success with it, and you're going to improve from it. And so we've always been pretty adaptable in what we've done. But I think as the transfer portal has become just more and more prominent, you realize the value in that. You're almost viewing it a little bit more, from an NFL lens. NFL, you're going to have a huge age range of guys who are going to be, modified in their training for you for one reason or another: age, injury history, background, likes, dislikes, those things. When you get those guys for a short period of time, it's like, how can I squeeze the most out of this guy? There's still gonna be some meat on the bone for development. And so one, got to meet that guy where he's at, is what he's gonna be good at, what he can do, what he can adapt to quickly. But then like with those guys, my favorite thing is when I find stuff they suck at. Like you get a guy, we had a guy that came in and being a first round draft pick, and big, strong, powerful, athletic, awful hips, awful ankle mobility, that was holding some of that stuff back. And it's like, yeah, dude, listen, you're big enough, strong to go play on Sundays right now. You don't move like you can go play on Sundays. And that's a guy that invested a ton of time into addressing those things. And you saw what happened with his career as he moved forward, moved on to the NFL, what he's been able to do. And so I love it when like we're going through small things. I'm like, oh, you're really, really bad at this. That gets me excited, because now I know, even though I have for a limited time, I can make a huge impact on what you can be on the field. So those are my favorite. It's always great to get guys plug and play and he can just train his ass off day one. But I love when you can find there's some holes we can fill in. Man, if I can fill those holes, I can really help this guy.
How hard do you think it is to have those conversations with those guys, like you said, with the limited amount of time, who know they're big, fast, strong enough to play on Sundays, but you're just like, all right, well, let's take a step back, address these minor issues so that you can, excel your performance. Do you find that there's a lot of pushback, or is it pretty easy to have those guys buy into that philosophy and that mindset to address those low-hanging fruit, so to speak?
Yeah, I think some of it depends on the guy. I think a lot of those guys that come in as those veteran guys appreciate being treated like a vet, being treated like an adult. They've been through it before. They've been through the freshman program, and they've all those things. And it's like, I think some of the guys come to place new, they worry that like, I'm starting all over again. I'm going to get treated like that. And then when you have that conversation early on, like, that's not what this is going to be. This needs to be what you and I make it. You know what I mean? Yes. Do I need you to hold the standard that we have here at Florida State? Of course. Like, there's no other option on that. But the way we get there can be done differently. And I think those guys appreciate that. And then when those guys see like things like, we're out running and like, it's a big guy and his running mechanics are awful just because no one ever taught him to run because he's an O-lineman. Hey, we can make that better. That's going to make you better in this regards on the field. Some of those guys like, oh, coach is paying attention to me. Coach cares about what I'm doing, what I need. And so I think where that helps is those guys that helps the buy-in, because you're not just coming in like, this is our program. This is the way we do it. We're going to pound you into the square hole until you fit, where it's like, hey, you might be a round peg. That's fine too. We need round pegs, right? Okay. So let's figure out how to make this work. And I think those guys, there's some appreciation with that. I think that does help buy in. Yeah, for some guys, some of the biggest adjustment is simply, which is just having the ability to communicate with their coaches like that to get what they need. We find a lot of guys that, surprises me, but like, no, this is the way we had to do it. We didn't have a choice. Okay, well, like, listen, we can talk. You know what I mean? If you're being a dude that puts out, gives me your best effort, works on the field, leads yourself, can lead others, trust me, I'm gonna help you be successful in that regard.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that guy's my success in my role, which is linked to our success in this program, is directly straight main line to that guy's success on the field on Saturdays.
Yeah.
So if I got to find the best way to get him there the quickest way possible.
Yep.
Yeah,
100%.
that's a fact. That's a fact, man. Coach, looking back at let's go back to the beginning here, because we jumped into it, right? And that's one of my favorite things about this is we're all, everybody on this call is going to be really passionate about training and about getting better and things of that nature. But I do want to make this a little bit more about you and let people kind of know who you are and what you've done. And, play tight end in college, there at South Dakota, which I can't imagine there's much to do there, but play football and lift weights. So it makes sense. This is kind of where you are. But how did you kind of know, or when did you decide that you wanted to be a strength coach?
Yeah, so I mean, I was drawn to the weight room really early. So as a kid, I stopped growing in like seventh grade. So like seventh grade,
Yeah, because you were 5 already. I mean, it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah, and then I realized then when I stopped growing, the NBA was not my future. I realized I'm like, the weight room is my only chance to be successful in athletics. I'm extremely tall. I'm extremely skinny. I'm not strong. I am athletic. I need the weight room. So I was drawn to that really early on. It was a huge part of my life through high school into college. And, originally I thought like, oh, I want to be a physical therapist. And I got an opportunity to do like some job shadowing in a PT setting. I was like, after one day, I was like, I absolutely don't want to do this with my life. So then I was like, you know what? I think maybe I want to be around athletics more. So probably athletic trainer is what I want to do. And through being a college athlete and seeing that job more ins and outs, I'm like, I don't think that's it either. And then obviously I probably wasn't very good at football. So short, injury plagued, unremarkable college football career. But I started realizing towards the end of it, as passionate I was about football as much as I loved it, I actually was more drawn to the preparation to play the game than even the game itself. And so that just naturally drew me from already having an affinity to the weight room to being in love with the preparation, the work that goes into it. That drew me into wanting to pursue this. And
Wow.
our situation was a little bit different. We were still a Division II school back then. So our strength coach was also our D-line coach. So we didn't have like your true like, here's our strength coach, here's our strength staff. I'm seeing this model as a job. I didn't really even know it was a real job. You know what I mean? And so I went.
That's fascinating. Wait, so when are you having this realization? Like you're a freshman, a sophomore, or
probably going into probably started thinking that way. Probably going into like my third year, right
wow.
around.
And
there.
you're thinking, I got to be a tight ends coach to be a freaking strength coach. This is crazy.
Yeah, and I knew I didn't want to do that. So I'm like, there's got to be a way to just do that. So one summer I went and volunteered in it was a private facility in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. It was connected to the hospital system. They actually still operate now. It's like the Sioux Falls, it's like the Sanford Health like power program or something like that. And the guy that I worked for there, who's actually still there today, he had been like the first ever head strength coach at Miami, had been at Ohio State. He was part of Boyd Epley's original crew at Nebraska. And so that's the guy that really showed me like, no, this is a real job. Like this is something you can go do with your life and something you can pursue, no different than if you want to go be a head football coach. And so that really, really sparked my mind, my interest, helped put me on that track. Went back to school after that semester, and then needed to do an internship that following year. And this is where like the Forrest Gump part of my strength and conditioning story starts. Is I had no idea, because like I said, without having a true dedicated strength coach in place, you don't have a guy to go to like for a network or whatever. So it's like, okay, I need to do an internship. Well, where do I do that at? I sent 2 resumes out. I sent one to the Chiefs and one to the Vikings, and that was it. Interviewed for both those positions, got offered both of them. Took the one in Minnesota. So that year when spring break hit, I went up there and worked OTAs, stayed in a hotel that week, went back, finished the semester, then moved back for the off season. Stayed there and interned that throughout that summer, got to the end of the summer, and they offered to keep me on in a paid position during the season, but only if I could finish my degree on time. So like, called my advisor and worked as many side deals as I could possibly work. So I stayed up there. So like for my whole last year and a half of college, I was already off campus because I was done playing early due to injury. So did that up there. So that was like 2001. That was Dennis Green's last season. That staff got let go at the end of that year. And you're kind of like, okay, what next? And for me, I know I still need to go to grad school. I need to get back on the college side of things. So I wasn't as like, too young, too dumb to be freaked out about the staff being fired, essentially, right? I was like, well, I know my next step won't be here anyways, right? Now, I had zero college network whatsoever. Not anything, no one. I probably couldn't have told you 3 college strength coaches' names. And we had a bunch of guys that were on the roster of Minnesota at that time that used to train with Mark Philippi at UNLV in the offseason. And a bunch of those guys told me, like, man, if you want to coach, you want to do this, man, you got to go work for Mark. You got to work for Mark. He's who you want to learn from. So, I mean, that's pre-internet days, too. So that was like, find a campus directory and find this guy's number. reach out. So, I contacted him and told him what I wanted to do, and, offered the chance to come on an internship for him. So, end of that summer, Darcy and I get married. And then a week later, we're packing our few belongings up into 2 vehicles and moving to Vegas. She doesn't have a job. I'm going to work for free. And not a single person in our family is like, yo, this is a bad idea.
It'll work. It'll all work out.
Good luck. So got out there, interned for like a semester or so. We had a guy on staff leave. We didn't have a GA spot there. It was like a restricted earnings, like $1,000 a month kind of deal. I was able to move into that. So I had been working like 3 jobs plus class, out of pocket, all kinds of stuff. Then at that point was more full time in the weight room, training my own teams, still going to class. Was there for about 2.5 years, all in all. A lot of stories to go into that, a lot of learning, a lot of very cool stuff. Just being around Mark, being around the circle of people. I mean, like Ed Cohn taught me to deadlift. Like, I mean, just being around Mark and getting access to those kinds of people was so formative early in my career. And then Joe Ken hired me at Arizona State in 2005. Spent the next 11 seasons at Arizona State. So I was there originally when Dirk Cutter was the head coach, all the way through Dennis Erickson. Todd Graham comes in 2012. Coach Norvell is his OC. So him and I meet then, had a good relationship. After those seasons there, after 15, we left, went to Memphis. First time being a head strength coach, 4 years at Memphis, now going into year 6 here at Florida State. So that's 25 years in a
Wow.
5-minute story.
That's amazing.
Man, that's crazy. That's so cool because, like he said, we're all in this with the just passionate about training and getting better. And obviously, powerlifting, strongman being my background. You hear Mark Felipe and Ed Cohn, especially with him being at Summer Strong 17. But I think that Cohn Felipe deadlift program was one of the first deadlift programs I ran years ago. And I was like, man, this is like magic. And then it's just, few degrees of separation now.
Oh, I know.
Crazy.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. And just the unique things in that career that have happened. So I went to Black Hills State first before I went to South Dakota. And I was real close with my advisor there. We stayed close for years. When I was at Arizona State, he called me one day. He goes, hey, we had a kid here, just finished playing basketball, really wants to be a strength coach. He's a great kid. I think you really like him. You guys have had really good luck in your internship program. Would you consider hiring him as an intern? I said, yeah. He said, share my contact. I'll give him the things he needs to do to apply to be an intern. Kid sends me an email, just finished his last year of basketball there. Really wants to be a strength coach. He's kind of going through just his background or whatever. But then there's a little short paragraph. He's like, as much as I want to be a strength coach, my ultimate goal is someday I want to be the world's strongest man and this and that. I'm like, bro, you're an NIL basketball player. Like, I was just working for Mark Philippi. I've been around those guys. Like, This dude is delusional. So he sends so we used to make our intern prospects send in a videotape of them like performing or coaching 3 exercises. And kind of the reason we did that was 1, just to see, are you proactive enough to even do this? Because if you're not, I'm not going to hire you, right? And then 2, just to kind of see on the hoof who we're actually bringing into the program. So we pop this VHS in from Spearfish, South Dakota. It comes on the screen, and you see kind of like an arm and like part of a head. Coach this girl squatting. He's a big kid now, and we're like, yeah, he'll do. We'll hire him. We bring him out, interns for us, does a good job. And so that year we went up to the NSCA conference it was in Vegas that year. And that was kind of before the conferences were as huge as they are now. So like Sornex didn't have like a big booth set up. They had like a table in the exhibit hall, right? And Pops is there, and they got a couple grip strength things out, but they got a Thomas inch dumbbell on the ground. And we're walking by, and the kid I'm with looks at it, he goes like, oh my God. He's like, Coach, he's like, that's a Thomas inch dumbbell. And like, he's like blown away. He's like, I've heard about him. I've never seen one. And he's just staring at it. He's blown away by it. And he's like, do you think I can try to pick it up? I'm like, yeah, go ahead, man. That's why it's there. He reaches down effortlessly and just picks it up off the floor and kind of like looks at it and turns his hand, sets it down.
Goodness.
Pops is sitting in his chair, and he sees, and his eyes get about that big, and he comes flying over there. And he's like, did you just pick that up? And he's like, yeah. He's like, do it again. Kid gets down, picks it up, sets it down. And like before he left, they started having a conversation. He ends up like shouldering it and has never even touched one before. So the kid though is Brian Shaw.
Oh,
that's what I figured.
Yep. And so, yeah. And so Brian interned for us, GA for a short period of time, ended up moving back home. And then, didn't hear from him for quite a while. And all of a sudden I was like, yo, you see Gigantor was starting to do strongman stuff? Like he won some show in Colorado, and then like his name started popping up more and more. And now, you fast forward to where we're at today, and like he's arguably the best to have ever done it,
ever.
And just,
Wow.
25 years, man, you come across some wild stuff, but
Yeah,
that's
man,
definitely one of the all-timers,
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. And
that is crazy.
Just bury the lead there. Like, oh, this little story I have here.
Right.
Brian Shaw made him everything he is. My God.
Very cool to see that, because like when he got out there, he was like 295 pounds, maybe.
Yeah.
He's up about 30 from the season at that point. By the time he left as a GA, he's probably like 310, 315, and then you see him down the road and like the work he's put in to become who he's become and all that. So just this profession is like afforded me some very unique opportunities with just people I've met and guys like you, friends I've made and things like that. They're all because of this business and love for training and all those things.
It's incredible. I mean, that's wild. That's one of the craziest things I've ever heard. And
Yeah,
to
for real.
do what he did or does, I mean, that's incredible. There's
Yeah,
a ton
he wasn't so delusional after all, apparently.
Right. He knew what he was doing. Yeah, we should have
put
put him at left tackle instead of center, though. That's crazy. What a miss. What a miss there. There's so much to unpack there. I'm going to fast forward to Memphis because there's a lot of stuff, and we could talk for hours about all this stuff. But that first time being the guy, what was that like? I mean, I'm sure you prepared most of your career thinking one day I will be this. When you got it, how were you ready? Were there a ton of mistakes along the way? What was the biggest thing you focused on? Like, what was that first opportunity really like?
Oh man, all of the above, right? Like as an assistant, especially I was an assistant for a long time. Had a great opportunity when Ben Hilgart was the head strength coach at Arizona State. Like him and I, we had shared office together there as assistants. When he got the head job, like I was very involved on all the inside of those things. So I felt like, man, this is really preparing me, And then Grizz comes in, guy had been a head guy, forever, ton of experience, learned a ton from him. Like I felt like I was as ready as you could ever possibly be to go be a head strength coach until you're a head strength coach. And then the quickest thing you learn is you don't get the luxury of having an opinion about anything anymore. What used to be opinions in the office, boss handles a situation a certain way, and you can go back in the office with the other assistants afterwards, like, I would have done it like this, or he did good with that, whatever, maybe all the armchair quarterbacking that goes on, and then all of a sudden you realize like, oh wait, I got to make real time decisions. I don't get to go back and think about how I would have handled this. I need to handle this right now live. And so like, that's probably the biggest adjustment. There's just certain things, no matter how prepared you think you are, until you are in that chair, until that whistle is around your neck out there, you don't know until you're in it. And so I think you got to be very, very open to what you see, handling things genuine to who you are as a coach, what your head coach wants the culture to be, making sure your training culture and weight room culture matches that the football culture of the program, and being able to like all the lessons that the head coach is trying to impart upon the kids. You got to sing that same song. You just have a different classroom and you got to do it a different way, but you got to make sure that that's moving that same direction to try to build that product that he's looking for, right? Because I mean, as much as it is my job to get guys in shape and stronger and bigger and all those things, if I'm not building the right cultural components either, I'm failing at my job. And I can say, well, they're in shape. Well, great, but they're not disciplined, or they're not this, or they're not that. You failed. Right. And so it's understanding what your job actually is. It is way more than training. To me, as important as the training is, and as passionate as we are about that, that's just one piece of the pie of being the head strength coach. Right. It's managing a bigger number of relationships. It's all those things. So there's a ton of lessons learned there. We had a great group of kids. That group there would whatever you rolled out in front of them, they would give you whatever you asked for. When it came to hard work out there in the summertime, there was no indoor. We're out there on the turf. It's Memphis. It's hot. That team wasn't scared, and so you learned a lot about how to push guys, how to save guys from themselves at times, and that part was huge. And then you make mistakes as you go. 2018, I was talking about, was one of the biggest mistakes ever made in programming. We're going through the summer program, and we're like getting to be like late June, and like I'm like, our guys are camp shape like today. No matter what I gave them, like crushing it. So then you start worrying like, oh my God, are we doing enough? We still have a month of training left. What do we do? What mistake did I make? More. Let's do more.
Yeah.
We got to push those guys, and they handled it great. And then camp rolls around, and we go into camp, and dudes are blown. Guys' legs are flat. We look like we didn't train at all this summer. You're like, this same team last week did this, and it's like you burnt the cake. You know what I mean? And so like you learn those lessons. And we end up have rebounding early in the season. Still came back. Still won our division. Those things that year, but like that was a major lesson learned of the importance of like trusting. You got to trust what you see, but you also got to trust the plan that you wrote as well. But you do have to remain adaptable. But I think 99% of the time you're always going to learn that more is not always better. And that was probably one of the biggest lessons learned there, for like one mistake made on my end, how that can affect the entire program. I mean, got a lot of people employed in the program, a lot of families that depend on those salaries of those providers. And one mistake made on my end can affect everybody. So you realize the weight of your position in the program and what you can do for a program and what you can do against the program, even if it's unintentional.
Being an assistant for so many years, and like you said, getting that call to the big league, so to speak, being the head guy, did you find yourself not necessarily being frantic or, asking for help and mentorship often as compared to the times that you were an assistant? Or were you kind of learning as you went through, like you said, making those mistakes and then kind of learning as you went? Or did you seek a lot of advice and mentorship from your peers and, other established professionals who you worked with in the past?
Yeah, I mean a little bit all of the above. The one thing I had confidence going in. So like when I was at Arizona State, I used to take care of all of our NFL players that would come back in the off season and things like that. And so with those guys, what I was essentially doing is that was my basically my first winter off season program that I would run with a program when I became a head strength coach. I've been basically running that off season program with those NFL guys semester after semester and kind of refining that and that dialed down where I knew like whatever, if I ever get a call on Friday and get hired as a head strength coach, I got to start Monday. I don't have time to write a program. You know what I mean? I need to be ready to go. So like I already had that loaded up and ready, knew it was pretty much set up where I could do that at any facility, anywhere I went. So when I got there, it just be a matter of like, let's get the roster. Let's see if there's maxes I can carry over to figure out where we're at. But I at least can, hit print and go. Right. So that helped me going in because like, that being such a big piece of the pie, I wasn't worried about that. That was already done. I already run that program. I knew the effectiveness. I knew what to expect. All those things, like that part was good. Then where I'd rely on like the guys in my network, guys like Grizz, guys like Ben Hilgard, those guys. It's just the leaning back on the veteran experience. Like, hey, we got this going on. What do you think? Just some of that stuff. Like I'd seen a lot as an assistant, but sometimes too as the head guy. Even just with staffing things and putting your staff in the positions for them to be successful and leaning into their strengths, and then being secure enough as the head guy to give your staff ownership of things too. And those are all just lessons learned early on, and lean on other guys of what are they currently doing with their staff, or even looking at myself as an assistant during all that span of my career. At what times was I most invested, most all in our program? What times did I just feel like a guy coming out of the office to coach groups and I wasn't as motivated, And so what was it that motivated me as an assistant to be a great assistant? And then how can I put my staff in those positions? For me, that's giving those guys ownership of the program. So all my guys, my staff have, complete ownership and autonomy in certain areas of the program. We try to collaborate on as much other things as we can because when we go out there, I don't want those guys being like, Coach Storms gave me the card and this is what I'm going to run. When I give them that card, the ones like, oh, I wrote this or this part is mine. So those guys take the floor. They're just as invested, but also just curious. I want to see if my shit works. And so for me, that helps. And it gives all my guys, it helps groom them for when they take that next step. Well, you've already done this to some degree. Now you're just adding a few more moving parts to the machine, but trying to keep those guys in a position where they're motivated because they have ownership. Their fingerprints are on everything that we do. And then as the head guy, it's being secure enough to know that you hire good enough people that you can allow them to do that too.
It's a great point. And I think that empowerment is special, right? Like when you do that and you feel like you can do that, it takes so much stress off to now you can truly be the CEO of your space, hit the little details, and make sure that the culture that you mentioned earlier was such a key component is held to the right standard. Coach, another thing that you keep bringing up about at the end of the day, I know head coach is in your name, head strength coach, but there's another guy and it's his program. And you and Coach Norvell have had such a great relationship for many, many years. And you've been together through great times, hard times, bad times, good times. What is that like to be with a guy so long? And, what is the working relationship between head strength coach and head coach? Because there's only two that have head in their name, right? That are the top of the top. What are those conversations like between the two of y'all?
Yeah, I mean, it's a unique deal because, in our program, my role and his role, the only two roles who are ultimately responsible for every athlete on our team. You know what I mean? We don't have a segmented section of these are just my guys. We're responsible for everybody. I'm fortunate. We've been together a long time. Like Coach Norvell's like family to me. I mean, you go back from 2012 through now. I mean, like even like our kids, like they're about 10 months apart. Our two kids don't know life without those two being around. They're like brother and sister. You know what I mean? Because we've been together that long and and that's huge. And like where that's a big advantage is, we have a great relationship outside of what do the guys do today? What are the guys doing next week? There's more to it than that. There's life stuff that comes into that too, which is huge, and to be able to have that support, like when, my wife went through what she went through, like having his support. I mean, there's days where he probably would have fired me if I came to work when she was getting chemo, because I was expected to go be there. And like, that's not everybody's situation. That's not everybody's relationship with their head coach. Right. But then with having been together so long, I have a very clear picture of what his needs, wants, and expectations are for the end product of the guys and for what it needs to look like to get them there, of being there that long, of like, what does camp look like? What does practice look like? Like, I'm very, very familiar with what those needs are going to be and how we need to train to be able to get to that point. And then, we can have the conversations about individuals or some of the bigger philosophical stuff, but just that long-term relationship is huge. And then I think too, that helps me when I'm talking leadership and culture things to the guys too. Well, they know as long as Coach and I've been together, they're like, that's the same song. You know what I mean? I may talk a little bit differently than he talks, and I may deliver the message a little bit different way, but it's all in support of that. And like you'll hear him talk to the guys, and it goes both ways as well. I mean, he does as good or better job of any head coach I've ever seen or heard of empowering the strength staff to be great at their jobs, with the support that he gives us, not just with resources here, but in the way he speaks about what we do to the guys. Like when the head coach is signing off on the way they train and the advantage that is to train the way we train and those things, like that helps. So if you're a guy who's new in the program, you're still like, I don't know about those guys yet. But then you hear the head coach saying those things, you're like, okay, all right, well, there's got to be something there, right? And then it's up to us to prove him right in those situations. And it's a unique relationship, and it's something, man. I wish every young coach in this business looking to be a head guy someday finds himself in a situation like this, be able to work for a guy like that with the moral compass that he has, the support that he gives you, the long-term relationship, and how that can empower you to do your job the way you believe it needs to be done.
Yeah, that's perfect. Because I mean, it's like obviously with you guys' relationship being such a constant, and you know, like you said, you being able to sign off on the things that head coach is saying, and vice versa, with the ever changing and evolving, you know, technologies and everything that are in strength and conditioning. How is your approach to, you know, keeping him up to date on things that are changing and evolving to make sure that you guys still stay on that same page as, you know, things change and time progresses?
Yeah, you know, with the technology stuff, I mean, there's so much out there, right? I mean, there's so many ways, so many measurables and metrics, and the way you can monitor things and all that. And like to me, like it's all interesting, right? The biggest thing we do is boil down what's actually actionable. Okay, so like for what we do, with we hired a sports science guy a couple years ago because at the end of the day, like, can I learn how to interpret GPS reports? Yes, but then that's going to take me away from the other things I need to do in the program, right? And so I needed somebody who was as passionate about that data and those things as I am about sprinting and squatting and training, right? We found a great guy in that role with Jackson Schaefer. And so, with him, it's the conversations him and I have about what's going on, and how the way we communicate those reports uphill to the coaches. And every coach just kind of has a different desire with that. So we have some coaches who are very all in on it. They want to know every detail about every guy, and like that's awesome. And some coaches like, hey, I just need to know who's working too hard and who's not working hard enough, and that's fine too, right? Where from Coach Norvell down, he's been so responsive to that stuff. Where there's modifications we made in how we practice and how we prepare based upon what the data says. Because where the data is great, that takes opinion out of it. You know what I mean? As a strength coach, you go look at a practice, like, oh, we're doing this. We should be doing this way because it makes more sense. Okay, good luck. Go to any football coach, like, hey, coach, as the meathead downstairs, I think our practice should be like this. It's like, go back down there and lift something. You know what I mean? Because it's just opinion. Even if it's right, it's still your opinion. Whereas like the data takes all the opinions out of it. Hey, the numbers say this. What do we think? How can we massage these numbers this way or that way as needed? And so it allows so much more like open dialogue because you've taken the opinion out of it. You've taken all those things away. And now you're just simply looking at hard numbers. Okay, now we can talk. What's the best way to get these where they need to be, up the same, whatever it may be. And so that part's been huge. With our position coaches, allows those guys to keep a better eye on their group, so to speak, versus what they just see. Because I mean, ball coaches are ball coaches. You get those guys in the grass, they're going to coach. Right. And you got a guy, this guy should be a 50% practice plan guy. Hey, once they hit that grass, like they're repping, they're working, which trust me, I love it. So, but it allows us to be able to keep a better eye on those guys and make sure that we're still hitting those, those return to play loads and those types of things.
Yeah.
We're always trying to expand what technology we use without ever getting so far. You don't ever want to become a data-driven organization in football. Right. You still got to have a coach's eye. You got to have communication. You got to have relationships. And so we want to just stick to where we are data informed. Mm-hmm. So even if we're coming off a practice and, I look at one of my wide receivers, his workload's off the charts, right? Well, if I'm only looking at the numbers, we're like, oh my God, we got to limit this guy. We got to, what? No, for us, it's a conversation. Hey, how do you feel? Oh, coach, I feel good. My legs good, everything. Oh, coach, I feel awesome. Okay, great. We need to know those things. You got to treat the player, not the number. And so, and that helps us. But then for those guys that are always burning hot, feel great guys, at some point though, that's where you got to save them for themselves a little bit. Like you may have to back them down whether they like it or not to make sure they can continue to do that throughout a long season. And so we always just make sure that for us, the data and the numbers, as much as that's important for us, most of those are all just jump off points for what the conversation is going to be. And that comes back to the relationship building and paying attention to the kids.
Yeah. Come on, man. Well, here's the deal. I'm getting excited thinking about all this training, and I'm getting more excited thinking about this new facility that you're about to be in. You've talked about it with me a little bit in the past. I've talked with Michael Alford about it, Coach Norvell, all these guys, and the excitement level is through the charts. But I know that weight room is going to be unbelievable. How was it designing it? Was it all you? Did you get to put every single fingerprint all over it? And just what was that process like?
No, it's been really fun being part of it. So kind of where it originally started at, the architecture group we're working with kind of presents like, hey, here's the blueprint for the weight room. What do you think? And it's like, okay, this is good, but like, hey, these offices are downstairs. I'd rather have more training space downstairs. We have that upstairs space. Why, let's move the offices upstairs. So we got to, kind of like our box, our footprint was set, but then how that was then configured was kind of up to us and what we felt was best for how we train and how we want to operate. So we got to kind of, Tetris all that stuff around however we wanted it, and then jumping into the actual facility design stuff with Jeremy and Josh and the guys from Sornex of just aesthetically, what do you want the room to look like? What do you want the room to feel like? What do you need to function efficiently in the way you train? So, getting to be able to, everything from every last color of everything to the surfaces, to the equipment, to the layout, we've been able to do all of it, which has been fun. I mean, I got a desk full of powder coat colors here and all kinds of stuff because we're getting down to those last few details so they can get to building the stuff and be ready to install in probably mid to late July, and then we'll be moving into the new building during the bye week in the season. So we'll be a huge asset for our guys, just from an efficiency standpoint of not transitioning from Doak over to the practice fields. Now we're all right there. From a training standpoint, we got big roll-up doors, so we can be on the weight room floor and be out on the turf within a few steps. The weight room is a couple steps away from the locker room, connected to the huge nutrition area. There's the way the building's going to flow for their day in, day out, and then be able to set the weight room up to be very efficient for the way that we train. It's probably been the biggest advantage to what we're doing. I think throughout the whole building, like it's a big building, it's very grand, but there's nothing cute about it. It's set up to be an extremely functional space. It's set up very smart for how it flows with the walk-through space upstairs that's connected to the meeting room. So a guy can walk down the hallway, you go in the wide receivers room, you're in that classroom setting, you want to go out and walk through it, you get up out of your desk and you take 2 steps out the back door and you're on a 20-yard by 53-yard turf field on the second floor with a full video wall. So now you're doing full film, full size walkthrough. So now you can move those guys for the way that they learn. Are you a classroom learner? Are you a go out and rep it learner? You can now do that within the same place efficiently. Even from where they enter the building, how that flows from the locker room to the training room to the recovery stuff, nutrition, sports science, into the weight room. The way the building's set up basically to flow as their day flows. It's been very, very cool watching that come together, watching that daily progress and stuff. And we're getting to the point now, like it's getting close, getting really close.
Are y'all going to reuse any of the equipment that y'all are currently using in the setup, or is that all just stay in place and other the Olympic sports or something going to use it?
Yep. So we renovated this space after the 21 season. So going into 22 is fully redone in here. Everything in here is going to stay in here. There's a few there's some little like odds and ends and stuff. Like, I mean, they're never going to need 3X belts over here for Olympic sports. So like there's some stuff like that we're going to take.
Hey,
with
that and the deadlift bar is the only thing leaving, right?
There's no doubt. So there's some of those little things we're taking with, but 98% of what's in the new room will be all brand new. So
come on, dog.
Yeah, no, it's
That's exciting.
I believe they told me when they ship it, it's going to be 17 semi trucks of equipment. So it'll be an exciting July.
So what was that conversation like? Was Alfred or Coach just like, hey man, blank check, fill it up, whatever you want? I mean, did you have to be cognizant when you were picking out all these things? What's the deal?
Well, I'll tell you what, yes and no. I mean, obviously, like, I kind of went in the process with him and told him, like, listen, I'm not going to bring you this insane list because I expect most of it to get cut and eventually get cut down to get what I want. Like, right. I'm gonna be smart with our money. What I give you, these are the things that we need to run our program, and they were very open to that. Great meetings as we went through all the process with all the different people involved and stuff, from the construction to architecture to Alfred to Mike to everybody. Here's what we need, and we know what we want the standard of this facility to be, and these are the things that need to be in it, and we know the companies and vendors that we like to deal with a history. And I'll be very honest, I was very, very fortunate, and pretty much everything we asked for, everything we want to accomplish is what has happened so far.
That's beautiful. I love that. Coach, we talked to you for a long time. I'm going to let Ike finish it out here. And again, we're coming back to you. I know you don't like to talk about yourself, but we're going to do that. And you're training, because every day Ike and I are just on Instagram, just watching how to do it and learning. So Ike, go ahead and finish this out here, bro.
Yes, sir. So, obviously we see you grinding every day, every Friday. Tomorrow's Friday, big day, deadlift day. What motivates you to show up daily for yourself? I mean, we've already touched on just the fact that you are a weight room guy, you love it. But outside of that, have you developed any more reasons, I guess, for showing up the way that you do to train as hard as you do?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. It's not a motivation thing. I mean, I'll be 47 in like a week, right? Like I've been doing this a long time, and like the amount of mind games you got to play with yourself daily to go out there and do the work. You know what I mean? And so, but it all also because it's a non-negotiable thing. Like to me, like I'm a Division I strength coach. And yes, do I need to look like I can still go out and play? No, but like, man, when I talk to these guys, whether it be recruiting or young guys coming in, man, I better look like I believe in this stuff enough to still do it, right? And that's a huge part for me. The big part of it is one. I mean, it's obviously it's health, longevity, it's those things, but I mean, it's also setting an example for my son too of what a healthy lifestyle looks like. The things that the consistency it takes to improve, the consistency it takes to go attack goals that you have, and those types of things. And so, I kind of the pressure in at work. Like I feel like it's important to train a certain way for our guys because there's some built-in street credibility with that also, you know what I mean? Like if I'm trying to tell you that you can take another jump on squat or you got to get deeper or whatever it may be, like I should look like I'm doing the same thing. Those guys should be able to go to my Instagram like, damn, coach is old, coach is old as shit, he's doing this too. Okay, but if I look like I've never done it and I don't do it, well,
Yeah.
do I even believe in it?
Right.
And why am I going to ask you to do something that I won't do? And can I still do all the things those guys do? No. You know what I mean? But where I can, I still push those areas as hard as I can and be consistent in the pursuit of it. Because for all of our players in our program, and if they ever take anything away from the time they spend with me here is the value of work and the value of consistency. Because I mean, does hard work guarantee you success? No, it absolutely doesn't. Right? But it's going to put you in the best position to achieve success. And one thing I can guarantee, if you don't work hard, success is pretty hard to come by.
That's right.
And then it's just the consistency of showing up daily, right? Whether that be to your family, whether it be academically to class, whether it be to the weight room, the practice field, the value and consistency and showing that like consistent people can be dependent on, right? And ultimately, I think as a man, every man wants to be able to be a guy that's looked at as like that guy's dependable. That guy sets the example what this should look like. And so, man, if those guys can take anything away from this place, I hope that's what it is. And so for me, I got to be able to live that and model that every day too. Because if I just talk about it, man, that ain't doing nothing, right?
Yeah.
You got to live it.
No question about it. Coach, man, we could talk for 2 more hours. I know you got stuff to do. Ike's got to go work out. I've got to go build my gym. But
Nice.
it's always great to see you. We're going to have to do this again during the season.
Yeah,
When you get into the
absolutely.
new place, hear how it's going in there. But always great to see you, man. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me.